Hello, my dear viewers. On the calendar on February 23rd, and today we will talk about the war for Ukraine. I emphasize for Ukraine, and not only about her. In fact, no less significant, no less important, but, nevertheless, much less noticeable events are taking place around today's events. First of all, in the post-Soviet space. And yet, very interesting transformations are taking place today in the minds of many Europeans who still cannot understand that they are creating problems for themselves. Moreover, with their actions, with their thoughts, they once again show how different we are with them and why. For example, Ukraine will never be Europe. That's what we're going to talk about today. The biggest mistake of Europe and the Western world as a whole is that they still cannot understand that it is their own actions that are forcing the post-Soviet space to unite quickly today. There are many illustrative examples of this. I will give just 3 of them. The first and most obvious is Belarus. For many years Belarus has been balancing between the West and the Russian Federation. But as soon as a sharp escalation of the situation began, Belarus quickly chose its side. And 2 years have passed to date. Not even 2 years, but a year and a half since the events in Belarus happened. Before these events, it was possible to ask the question, where will Belarus go next? Today, a year and a half later, this question is absolutely meaningless. Belarus and Russia defend the same values back to back, and they have the same common enemies. Moreover, the question is not even that this is an agreement between Lukashenko and Putin. The question is that the Belarusian society is rapidly consolidating with the Russian society, which quickly forgets the contradictions that existed between them, and they really were. Today they are more and more acting as a whole. Even those people who in the early days supported the WRW movement, White Read White movement, many of them today look to the West as enemies who are breaking into their home. The same applies to Kazakhstan. It would seem that President Nazarbayev's Kazakhstan is increasingly separating from the Russian Federation, despite the fact that he was a member of both the CSTO and the Eurasian Economic Union. The Nazarbayev clan, with the full support of local elites, distanced Kazakhstan from Russia. The beginning of the turning point occurred in 2019, when Tokayev became president. But at that time, it was not yet clear whether it was a fracture or not. But at the moment, especially after the January events in Kazakhstan, Kazakh society is waking up quickly, and what is happening in Kazakhstan today is no less surprising and important than what is happening in Ukraine or Belarus. One of the last very interesting and significant statements of the new president, although not so new, the transition of the Kazakh language to the Latin alphabet, in fact, is cancelled. That is, the transition has been postponed. And today there is a purge of the old elites. One of the last to be jailed is a former defense minister. And Tokayev constantly emphasizes that the rapid rapprochement with Russia is not an accident. This is a pattern that will only develop further. In fact, if there had not been an aggravation of the situation, which over the past 2 or 3 years we have been observing with the easy supply of the West, then today's rapid rapprochement between Kazakhstan and Russia would not have happened either. Another very clear example happened in Moscow yesterday. There, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a declaration on allied relations. Just a couple of years ago, it seemed that Azerbaijan was finally lost. In other words, it goes into the orbit of Turkey's influence. But it was the latest event, the threats that Azerbaijan faced, and the understanding that Turkey would not be able, even if it really wants to protect Azerbaijan from all the problems that Azerbaijan faces, that forced the Azerbaijani president to take this step. The signing of yesterday's declaration puts Russia on a par with Turkey for Azerbaijan. That is, the day before yesterday, Azerbaijan, according to the signed documents, had only one strategic partner, but today there are already 2 of them, Turkey and Russia. Moreover, taking into account how the problem of delimitation of the border with Armenia is being solved today, as well as against the background of yesterday's visit of Azerbaijani parliamentarians to Yerevan, it becomes clear that this Gordian knot will be cut, and Azerbaijan will become, at least, an observer in the Eurasian Economic Union in the next year or 2. And then, as the Russians say, let's see, taking into account the documents signed yesterday, I absolutely do not rule out the possibility that Azerbaijan will sooner or later become a member of the CSTO. Moreover, not because the Azerbaijanis want it badly today, but because the Azerbaijani leadership understands that otherwise it will not be able to defend its country during the next turbulent 2020s, which are already obvious. The same applies to Ukraine. The transformation within Ukrainian society that has taken place in recent years is colossal. I read a lot of comments. Yuri, what are we going to do with the Ukrainian people who hate us? Who told you that the Ukrainian people hate you, Russia? In the information space, for many years, they have been trying to create the illusion of this hatred, trying to pump the inhabitants of Ukraine with this hatred. In fact, Ukrainian society has changed a lot in recent years. And, I repeat, it will surprise you very much in the next year or two. And it is in the good direction. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all the information today, but I really hope that I will be able to do it in the coming months. In this situation, first of all, we must say thank you to our Western partners, who, in their hatred and attempt to put pressure on Russia, made several key strategic mistakes. These mistakes, it seems to me, have already turned the situation in our favor in the minds of many residents of Ukraine. That is, all the efforts of the West aimed at aggravating the situation in the post-Soviet space have led to the opposite result, to the rapid consolidation of the post-Soviet states into a single integration core. And now, after only a month and a half, the words that President Lukashenko said are perceived absolutely differently. I repeat, just a month and a half ago, after the Christmas service, Lukashenko said,
I must tell you that this year will not be easy. The world will change in a very serious way. The world will change in terms of uniting peoples and states into unions. It will not just be difficult for states like us to survive alone, but it will be impossible. That's why I took a tougher course to preserve our sovereignty and independence, so that we are a state, but we are in close contact with our closest friends and brothers. Who are they? This is Russia, this is Kazakhstan, this is Ukraine. It doesn't matter what happens there today. There the people are deprived to the extreme. It can't last that long. And we need to do everything to return Ukraine to the bosom of true faith.
Now it is clear that it was absolutely no coincidence that he said during a big interview with Vladimir Solovyov that literally within the next 15 years, not only Belarus and Russia, but also Ukraine and Kazakhstan will enter the Union state. This, I emphasize, was said just a couple of weeks ago. Look at how fast things are happening. Only 2 weeks have passed, and how much has already changed. And also, I'll tell you right away, how much more will change in the next few weeks. A lot will change. And again, here we have to say thank you to our Western, so-called partners. Because the world is changing rapidly and the aggravation of the situation in this world aggravates everything, including the reality that the so-called Western partners artificially shared in order to achieve their goals, and who made a strategic mistake by aggravating the situation. Thus, they contributed to the rapid consolidation of the core of the former Soviet Union into a new integration, not only mental, but also political, economic and, ultimately, military core. And they can't do anything about it anymore. Moreover, an increasing number of not only post-Soviet countries will join this core, using the example of Azerbaijan. That's about what I wanted to say in this material. That's it, on this topic, for now. I continue to follow the events and, of course, today I plan to make at least 1, and maybe even 2 videos. Everyone, goodbye, subscribe to the channel. And traditionally, at the end of each issue, I have always wished everyone, I wish and I will wish, be healthy. Goodbye.